Is this on? Hello? 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 I'm told I don't do enough social media, so you guys are part of my post today, so thank you. Where are we?
We're at LANDR. I think I'm not on.
Got it!
Yeah!
I got you in there. All right, I'll upload it later so I don't have to.
Awesome. Check, check, 1, 2. Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Am I amplified? Yes? Can be a bit more louder, maybe? Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here on this summer day, a very unusual summer day here in Montreal at LANDR. We have the extremely, the biggest pleasure to have Josh Wink here with us today before his performance at Picnic Electronic, closing off the season today. And so, welcome, Josh.
Thanks.
For those,
Am I louder than you?
I think you're louder than me, maybe
Is
a little
that my manly voice?
Maybe I should put my voice down a little bit like this.
Okay.
Awesome. So I think, Josh Wink is one of those people that doesn't need much of an introduction, but I will still do it because I think, it's a good, it's a nice way to start things off. Yeah. So Josh Wink was born and raised in Philadelphia. He's one of the pioneers of American rave music, specifically acid, house, techno, tech house, and many other genres. His first EP, Tribal Confusion, was released under E-Culture on the iconic Strictly Rhythm label in 1990. 4 years later, he started his own influential imprint called Ovum Recordings. He's released various iconic dance tracks under multiple monikers, including Don't Laugh, I'm Ready, and Higher State of Consciousness, which I think many of you know, and is really seminal in dance music. He's also released on Strictly Rhythm, RNS, Excel Recordings, and most of all on his own label, Ovum Recordings, and has been touring around the world, DJing and playing live. So again, welcome, Josh, here at LANDR. So I wanted to start off with the beginning, because my idea here today was to kind of do a bit of a broad look at where you come from, who you are, and how you fit into the sort of history of American rave music and broadly dance music here on this continent. So let's start at the beginning. Maybe take a few moments, because you're one of those people who has this specific special perspective from having been in this culture, dance culture, music, electronic music for a while, and that's pretty special. So let's start at the beginning, and why don't you take us to the first moments when you actually started DJing? What did it look like? What was that sort of moment, that revelation, and how did it all start?
Yes. Thank you. I'm 47. Yeah. 47. It's not funny, actually. It's hard to get out of bed this morning. Alcohol's not processing the same way. Coffee's not working. Yeah, I'm 47. The reason why I say that is because I think what you're trying to convey is that I've been doing this for a long time, and the infancy of electronic music and how we know it is kind of, it's not really that old, but anyways, it's hard to sum up a lifetime of stuff really quickly. But your question is, how was it when you first started DJing? Now, there's kind of two aspects of how I DJ and how I got into it. There's the aspect of how I started as a mobile DJ when I was 13 years old. And then there's the aspect of playing in nightclubs and playing for people all over the world is more. They were both profession, but one wasn't looked at as a profession. So something interesting, I was at a summer camp outside of Philadelphia when I was 13 years old, and I wouldn't be here, I don't think. I had an epiphany moment, but I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a junior counselor at the camp saying to me, if your hand is bigger than your face, you have cancer. Now, it's funny but not funny, but this is what 13 and 14-year-old kids do, or at least I guess that's what they do. When I think about it, it's pretty horrible, but what I did was I went like this to see if I had cancer. And he smacked me in the face. That's the joke. Well, I didn't have cancer, but I had to go to the hospital because I had asthma, and that situation had set me off, and I then couldn't breathe. So I went to the emergency room at the hospital, and that's where the emergency rooms are. And I then developed a special bond with this gentleman, and it turns out that he was the radio station DJ in the area where the camp was. And he felt really guilty for doing that. He didn't expect, he thought it was just going to be a funny joke, and then next thing you know, I'm in the hospital. So I started hanging out with him, and he was a radio station DJ, and I was hanging out in the radio station. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm getting to play music and learning about music, and people have no choice. They got to listen to it unless you turn it off. So he also was the owner of a really small mobile DJ company called Captain Jack's, named after Billy Joel's song, Captain Jack. That's how it all started for me. If that instant didn't happen, I would not be here probably talking with you guys. It's a weird, I don't know how many people have an epiphany to what they do or what they choose to do in their lives, but if it wasn't for this moment, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Now, from going from a mobile DJ into kind of being here speaking on behalf of someone that is a DJ and a producer and an engineer and a musician, a record label guy, I kept on asking myself questions when I was an apprentice to the DJ company. I wasn't necessarily DJing then because I was 13 years old, but I was the only 13-year-old coming home at 2 o'clock in the morning. My parents split, and I was given the responsibility to show them how responsible this 13-year-old is. And I would come home, and I would, do all my work, and then I would go out and do night things with this mobile DJ company. I learned the ins and outs of the business, of that aspect of it, of setting up the equipment, looking at a small Toyota hatchback and putting all the equipment in there, plugging it all together, and getting to see what's up. Now, the artistry of DJing wasn't much then as it is turntablism, and you did your job. A mobile DJ, you take requests, you play the slow songs, you play the stand up, you play the kissing songs, you do all that kind of thing. I still play kissing songs. I do.
And cool. What's an example of a kissing song, for example?
The slow jams.
Slow jams.
Nowadays, it's any music is a good excuse for making a kissing song. So the next step for me, it turns out years later, found out about house music from Chicago, and that was a turning point for me. I started buying, I was given an allowance to buy music, but it was all top 40 music that you'd hear on the radio for the weddings. And I would go and buy 45s. And then I started to see different records, and I would buy different things. And I'm from Philadelphia, where there's a big hip hop and disco movement. And I started then getting more involved in history of music and the history of Philadelphia, where I'm from. So I bought his equipment, and I started doing my own school parties and house parties and things on that small level. And then I got to a point in my career, it's like this tiny bit of snowball at the top of the mountain. It started rolling, and everything kind of got accumulated to it, and the momentum and everything got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I started questioning why a lot of things. Why am I playing other people's music? Why am I only playing in Philadelphia? And I had a lot of ideas in my head, and I wanted to say, well, why can't I make this music and have other people play it? I'm kind of fast forwarding in between the whole 5-year gambit, but I guess I didn't really kind of answer your question, but
no,
I
actually,
kind of did.
That moment, I think that's what I wanted to see if there's like that specific moment that point of entry, and the slap in the face seems to be
It wasn't an initial, it was a slow entry thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the water's cold, jump in it or
Yeah.
just wade in it.
Yeah.
But the world kind of opened up for me when I started making music. That got me to play outside of Philadelphia. When, you know, people kind of approach me at parties, at clubs, at festivals, and one of the questions that they ask, one of the popular questions is, how did you, like, what would you say to an aspiring person that wants to do what you're doing? And I say, first and foremost, you know, follow your heart. You know, make sure it's something that you want to do, because when myself and a lot of my colleagues got into this kind of music in the 80s, there wasn't really a profession, there wasn't a way to make a lot of money. And I just did it because I wanted to do it. I wanted to eat and breathe and live music, and this new kind of music, this house music, acid house music, electronic music that wasn't, I mean, I don't know when the last time you heard a sound in music that you've never heard before, but that's deep. Like, to really be turned on to something. I mean, so I would tell them, you know, love what you do. And this is something that I truly loved and did, not for any other reason, but to make money. I mean, no, but just to get lost in this passion, this happiness. My father was very academic based. He was a doctor, and he wanted me to go through school, and I did go through school, but then I dropped out. I guess the basis of going to a college and a university is to find a profession that you like that can make you money. And most of my friends spent 5 years or 4 years of their lives getting into debt and still not knowing after those 4 or 5 years what they're going to do to make a living. So the opportunity was knocking for me with production and DJing and traveling. So I decided to drop out of school and go to life college, you know, which is just getting in the shit.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm interested in what it looked like sort of around you at that moment when you realized that it started to sort of work for you, and like, what did the sort of scene look like in Philadelphia when you started doing, like, throwing those warehouse parties, and what did people care about at that time? Who were your colleagues? What did it look like to sort of to make those parties happen at the time?
Loaded questions. I talk in tangents and I try to come around, but I don't remember a lot. And I would think about not remembering a lot because I'm always asked about the past. Sometimes the journalist will say, well, where can you see yourself in 5 years? Where can you see yourself in 10 years? And that's a little bit of the interview where an hour was spent on, so tell me, how was it when you first started? I wish I had an excuse for why I don't remember things, and I started to think about that, and I was like, well, I never did drugs, and I never really partied very much, so that wasn't the excuse. And then I realized that I think I'm blessed that my cup is really full of experiences. And, you know, playing and working every weekend for 25 years, 3 times a week, 43 weekends out of a year, I begin to not remember things. But then again, some things come to me. Really weird how the memory works. And my father's a neurologist, and that's what got him into neurology, is the aspect of the brain and memory. And I've actually thought about going into medicine recently because traveling's a pain in the ass. So to get back to not remembering my past, I don't know how, Philadelphia, there wasn't much going on. It wasn't trendy and hip to be a DJ. It wasn't trendy and hip to, like, kind of go out to clubs. You would go out to clubs for several reasons. Because it was a trendy, cool place to go. The drinks are cheap. You're going to get sex. And not very many people went out just to go and listen to music. And the only way that I could get involved in a nightclub in Philadelphia, and it's a little different here in Canada with the drinking rules, as it is in America, along with Pennsylvania. You have to be 21 years of age to get into a nightclub in Philadelphia. I couldn't get in just to hear music, so I had to become. I was a mobile DJ in 1980. Oh no, you already know about the mobile DJing. I was a barback in 1988 when I was 18 years old, washing glasses and stocking the bar, because that was the only way I can get in to hear this music that I loved in a nightclub setting, and that was the only way. So it was typical nightclubs, and I don't know what to paint the picture of what it was and how different it was. And I'm not going to be that guy that says, "Oh, things have changed so much and it's different and it's changed." That's life. Everything changes and is different. But there was I kind of said something to you guys earlier, which is, can you imagine the last time you heard some sort of music that you've never heard before, and that feeling? That's kind of how it felt all around. So if you can take that feeling and place it with me, that's how I felt. It was just inspiring. It was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to live. It was exciting, and I was running into some walls. Like I couldn't get into a club even if I wasn't drinking or I didn't do drugs, because I wanted to hear the music. But the biggest thing was, it wasn't so accessible as it is now. There weren't radio stations except for a couple small college radio stations that were playing punk rock and reggae, and then for 1 hour during the week they'd play techno music, and you couldn't get it because the signal was very weak. There wasn't the internet. There was only a subculture, which is a record store. And then it developed into becoming a bigger world. But that was the culture. I mean, it was just basically about record stores and a couple clubs and a couple people who knew. It's like the secret Eyes Wide Shut kind of club. That's a movie reference, in case.
So I like this. I like the way we're doing the circling around and going back. So let's do a bit of a circle around and go to today, this year. You put out an EP called Resist. Let's talk about what you perceive as your role today as in dance music. Do you perceive the role of a DJ or a producer as a sort of, what's a political role of somebody who does that and who has a perspective like you do?
I don't think I have a responsibility. I don't think it's a responsibility of other people to have to do something. It's what you want to do and how much you want to get involved. I mean, I guess I'm in a sense a role model, but I choose not to preach about it. I tend to be asked, and then I follow through with, so why are you vegan? Why are you vegetarian? Why do you start like this? Why don't you do drugs? Why did you choose electronic music? Why did you have a song called Resist? If I get asked, I usually tell. Now, for me, music is an escape for my world, and I look at what I do when I perform, and I really feel like I get my psychologically speaking, in terms of how our mind is made up and our ego. My ego is stroked when I can feel like I'm helping someone and pushing them in a positive and directive manner. So I choose at times to say certain things, but for me, I really like to think of myself as a musical therapist in a way, not in the sense of there are musical therapists. I'm not licensed. Maybe in Canada I can get it, but in America I'm not. No, I look at my performance time as a way to get people out of their shit. Like get away from their problems, their kids, no kids, taxes, girlfriend, boyfriend, dog dying, whatever. You go to a movie to be entertained, to get away from your things just for a little bit. And I really like my time as being a musical therapist. Like, trust me, come with me, close your eyes, put your head in the speaker, get lost. This is my duty I really chose to feel. It's a diminishing duty because I think a lot of people come out for different reasons than just to be lost nowadays. It goes back to how it was. You go out for a social aspect of it. You go out for to get booty. You know, there's all this is cool. I'm just looking at what I do in a social, moral manner, as in I like to be an avenue and an instrument to people to use to get lost and to forget about things. That's one of my cool things. Now, answering your question about the moral obligation of, let's say, a track called Resist. When I was growing up, 1988, 1989, in Philadelphia, there was a really big movement called Refuse and Resist out of New York City that I actually got turned on to because the American artist Keith Haring did the artwork, if you guys are familiar with the Resist art. He did that as a moniker, a logo for the Refuse and Resist movement that came out in protest. People protest Ronald Reagan and a lot of the things that were similar then as they are now. I liked music for being just what it is, an escape, and I didn't want to bring people into like problems by listening to a song that says resist in it. But I'm just kind of getting fed up with a lot of things, and we were quickly talking before earlier about, you know, do we just deal with it, or do we, you know, in terms of social problems, and do we want to get involved politically? You know, I just want to make music. I'm not trying to run for office or anything of the sorts. So it was a little different for me in terms of proposing my views. The track is called Resist. It was based on my history, as I just said, about the Refuse and Resist movement, and also what's going on now about resisting certain idealistic beliefs, government, you know. Do we just have to accept it because everybody else is accepting it? I took a chance. You know, some people got it, some people didn't, but, you know, it's a track, and it got people thinking, and I like it when people think. Either you buy it or you don't, you stream it or you don't, it's no big deal. It's just something that I chose to go there for, and I don't feel it's my moral obligation to always do it, because I like this escapism, and music for me is like repetitive beats, Sufi kind of meditation of just repetitive movement, repetitive rhythms to get lost, having your consciousness lost for a little bit, and it's kind of hard to go there when lyrics are shaping your direction. Got it?
I got it, yeah. So there seems to be a bit of both at the same time, a little bit, kind of like there's a platform for you to think, but you're also invited to kind of come in and be and dance and use your body to just be present.
For me.
Yes. So another thing I wanted to touch on in terms of your longevity as a producer and DJ, what are some of the factors that you think have contributed to your longevity as a person? So personally, you know, because it is a pretty difficult sort of thing on the body and the mind, a kind of like nightlife. Working in the nightlife can wear you out if you kind of, you know, don't, or like go too hard, or, you know, don't take care of yourself. So what are some of the personal things you've done for longevity, but also some of the creative things that you've done for longevity? So it's a two-part question. What are the sort of personal things and then the creative things that have allowed this idea of longevity for you to be here today still?
Rory, is it possible to get a napkin or something? Thanks. I usually say I'm sweating because I'm nervous, but I feel comfortable with you guys. But I think it's really hot in Montreal today. I'm not used to this. It's crazy. Okay, two parts of longevity. One, I'll take the first is my, I guess, longevity of my career. I feel very blessed that I'm still doing what I'm doing after so many years, considering I got involved at, thank you. I talk about this a lot in interviews, about people like, you're still doing it. And I'm like, I'm still doing it. And I feel very happy and blessed to still be doing it. Now, my partner, she said to me something the other day, which is a deep thing. She said, when did you stop being happy? I'm not supposed to laugh at that. No, it's a deep question. Like, there's aspects of what I do I really love. Like, I love my job, I hate my work, or I dislike my work. My work has become coming and going to events and everything in between it. The immigration, the jet lag, the canceled flights, the middle seats, I mean, it's funny, but, you know, traveling once in a while is a pain in the ass, but traveling every weekend is a pain in the ass. And it becomes hazardous to your health. In a joke sense, and also, like, there's terrorism. And when I feel turbulence, I don't think of what I used to, you know. I used to think, like, Twilight Zone movie, there's some guy outside shaking the plane. Now I'm thinking, like, someone's activating something in their shoe and we're going down. And, like, this helped. One of the things that make me, like, not like my job, like, not like my work. When I'm performing for the 2 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, I'm like a pig in shit. I love what I do. I love my job. But I just don't like my work. So I've been questioning a lot recently, over the past couple years, I guess, about if I still have enjoyment doing what I do. And I still do, but I've lost some of the happiness somewhere around the way. That's something that a partner who I've been with for many years can actually call me on. And I just said, shut up. No, it was an uncomfortable thing that I really had to look at. And I'm glad that I have her to be able to answer that question. So, I'm still very happy doing what I do. I love doing stuff like this, you know, interactive. We've lost a lot of the subculture that originally started the scene. You know, I used to go and come into a city, and I would come here and go to Inbeat, and Christian P would be there. Like, you know, go to other record stores. You know, be part of this community. They would know who I am. It's the coolest feeling, just walking into a different city and hey, Josh, here, I got some records for you. Take a listen to these. That's missing. A lot of that's not around anymore. People are buying records in their underwear at their house, which is cool, but that's not a subculture I miss. I miss stuff like this, and I strive to still do interesting, meaningful, inspiring, where you guys inspire me and I hopefully will inspire you, things. And I still love that, and I want to continue to do it. But when I look back about the question of the longevity, I think it's based on integrity. And the integrity to myself to continue to doing what I want to do out of joy and happiness is why I'm still doing it. I think. I don't honestly know, but when I get asked in interviews, I guess the question that comes up is, well, your longevity, why do you think? And I said, I think it's because I feel an integrity to myself to keep on doing what I like to do, get happiness from it, and do the music I want, not the music that I feel like I have to be relevant. And it's difficult because things change and sounds change. And do I have to wear what we kind of call a techno tuxedo when you go out to work? You know, do I have to wear the black? And I mean, I'm not saying nothing. You look beautiful in black.
Thanks.
But do I have to do drugs again? Or do I have to do drugs? Or do I have to play certain kind of music and change my sound because everybody else is and I'm not changing? And is that a weird thing not to change? Is it stubborn? And no, I think about it, and it's a lot about integrity. I just feel comfortable going home being myself rather than feeling like I have to be someone else. So I get happiness by doing what I feel makes my heart and my head happy. And that's such an amazing position to kind of hop into. I'm still trying to tap in on the happiness and think about that question. You know, when someone says, "When did you lose your happiness?" it You can do a couple things. It made me really sad. I felt like I got smacked in the face. But when I became vulnerable to it, I started thinking more about it. Like, is this really what I want to do? Like, honestly, this is the only thing I know. I'm 47, thank you. And I started kind of in this music at 13. So it's a long, awesome life. But what else do I do? Like, is this my calling? Do I do it? What is it? And like, this stuff makes me happy. It makes me want to continue to strive to be a better person and do things. So that's longevity of music, I think, of me in the industry. Happy releasing music, happy putting out music on my record company, happy traveling aspects of it, of my job. Longevity of my body and my being, I guess, is the other question. Yeah. I used to be, I don't know if I still am, but I was kind of like the black sheep of the industry in the 80s and 90s, where I wasn't the guy doing the drugs and passed out, and where it seems like a lot of people were. Those people who I'm still friends with have been coming up to me over the years saying, "Hey, Josh, guess what?" Like, "What's up?" "I'm doing yoga now, and I'm not doing drugs, and I'm a vegetarian." And congratulations, that's great. Okay, why are you telling me? You know, like, it's something that we share. But it makes, I got involved in music because of the music, not because of the subculture. The subculture is important with all different things in life, religion, you know, people and who we are sociologically speaking. And a big subculture of electronic music in general, but electronic music is the drug aspect of it. And it never was there. I got into clubs because I wanted to hear the music and not drink alcohol and pass out. When I was 18, as a barback, I got into these clubs, heard really cool music from the DJs in Philadelphia, was inspired beyond belief. And I got to see like grown-ups passed out in their own vomit and poop. I can't say. I have a 5-year-old, so I can say poop. That's funny. I was like, this is what it's about? You know, that's what it never was about for me, even though I understand that aspect of escapism, you know, drugs, alcohol, coffee, sugar, nicotine. It's all ways for us to escape from our stuff. But for me, how I choose to deal with life, my mom was involved in a guru and holistic and conscious living, and I became a vegetarian at 13 because of her involvement in yoga movement. So that kind of got me in that aspect of consciousness. But I imagine, I know when I told you I was 47, you're like, nah, he's not 47. He looks 32. Well, I don't think I look 32 anymore, but I think a lot of it has to do with lifestyle. The bad thing about my lifestyle is that, and it's changing. People used to say, "Hey, do you smoke?" And I say, "Not by choice." They say, "Wait, I don't understand." And I said, "Well, secondhand smoke." I've been involved in nightclubs since I've been 13, so I kind of been smoking since I've been 13, and that, I've seen the before. It's not that bad. There's some bad parts of what I've kind of put myself through, and I would say being around smoke and lack of sleep are the two things that really kind of hurt me the most. But to be able to be professional and full of integrity to myself and who I am as a person, I find that I live my life in a certain way, being a vegetarian and then vegan, trying to get sleep, trying to balance the hectic craziness, living in airplanes. And you're not supposed to live in an airplane. That's an artificial atmosphere that we're supposed to live on the ground, you know? So I guess through just healthy lifestyle choices is kind of how I deal with, and just habit. You know, my partner says, "Well, how was your weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm tired." And then I would give validation to why I'm tired. I was like, "Well, I went right from the club to this place, and then I flew to another place, and I didn't get any sleep." And what do I want out of that? Is it complaining? Is it validation? Is it sympathy? So I kind of stopped saying that I was tired and started putting out good things. So when she said, how was my weekend? Was it great? I was like, wonderful, great. So positive thinking helps out a lot of the way. You know, you laughed about middle seats. You know, not all DJs always get the business class and first class or in the aisle seats. We're human. We all get the same thing, even frequent travelers. But living on an airplane and dealing with an airplane is hard. It's hard work on your body and your being. And I got out of just the habit of just saying certain things and keeping a positive outlook on life instead of saying I'm so tired. I'm not lying, but I'm just kind of augmenting the conscious way of saying things. But I guess I'm happy to still be doing it. I still don't get sleep. I'm a weekend warrior. This is what I do. I can deal with it a little bit better than most because this is what I do. My office is different than someone that still has to work at I just went to St. Vitier's Bagel to bring bagels back for my friends in Philadelphia. I'm gluten-free now, but is my job any different than someone that works at a bagel shop for 12 hours in the evening or someone that's been in the nightclub all night? And you know, a different way of looking at things. So I just try to change my point of view, and that's kind of helped with the longevity of our mortality, in a sense. And I feel happier. People say, well, you're vegan, you don't do this, and well, you think you're going to live longer than me? And to me, it's not a question of that. It's the quality of life while I live it. And I just feel better eating certain ways. Like, I'm not allergic to gluten. I'm just going to be straight up with you. I feel better without gluten in my body. And I'm following a trend.
Awesome. Well, let's shift gears again a little bit and talk about your sort of creative practice, your DJing, and I wanted to sort of, you mentioned, you know, missing this idea of like community and record shops and stuff. So how do you look for your music, and how has it changed over the years, and how do you try to maintain that link to that record shop, to that community?
There's still record shops. I still try and make time to go to them because I still think it's an important thing. I'm not really trying to be sentimental and hold on to my past. I mean, I have 14,000 records, and it's awesome and it sucks. Try to move. Try to move with the craze of records. It's heavy. 3 records equals 1 pound. It's oh man, I love it. I love my hand, but would I cut it off? It's like, it's something nostalgic. It's something I own. It's awesome. I mean, some collectors are in here, I imagine, or some people that have vinyl. But it's cool to have some. I don't know if it's cool to have a lot. I can't get rid of them. My son, I'm passing them on to my son, and I'm like, why would I do that? This poor little kid, he's gonna be traveling with 14,000 records his whole life. I love getting involved in the beginning stages and going. You know what the coolest memory I just had right now? There was a record store in Philadelphia called 3rd Street Jazz and Rock. And I used to go and buy records there. Used, new, jazz, avant-garde rock, electronic music. We used to have to go and order records and come back in 2 days, 3 days to see if it even arrived. I mean, that's not instant gratification of just going to your hotel room and one-click purchasing something online and having it. There was something special about trying to get this limited edition Adrian Sherwood Depeche Mode on marble vinyl German pressing only record and ordering it and going to the record shop and it's not there and they say, come back a week later. I miss that. It's weird. Having records is cool. I don't play them a lot. I support the industry. I run a record label that produces and manufactures records from myself and other artists. I miss that society of going and having like-minded people that know about this culture and society. I support it, but it's a dwindling culture. I buy music any way I can. online, coming to a local record shop, supporting, buying online vinyl through record. But it's expensive, socioeconomically, and bad for the environment. And it's not socioeconomically, it's like bad, but it's, you know, if I want to send if I go online and buy something from Germany, it's going to take a while to get here. And how much petrol does it cost to get here for 2 records? And if it's even in one piece, comes here and it's broken, and I've been looking forward to that record. So I try to get my hands on it as much as I can. I still want to live in this culture, and any way I can, I try. So I buy music. I get music for free promotionally. I buy records. I get promotional records for free. I love it. I just want it. USB sticks.
Actually, I got one for you.
I got a demo.
I was going to give it to you later, but I'll give it to you now.
What is it?
There's some tracks I made for you. Free music.
That's awesome.
Okay,
Are they your tracks?
That I made them, yeah.
See, if someone comes up to me and gives me one of these, I say, "What is it?" It's a thumb drive. I was like, "Okay, I know that." No, like, is it a mix? Is it your music? Is it a friend of yours? This is a really cool way. I mean, a lot of questions that are asked to me when I'm out is like, how do we get music out on your label? You know, how do we send? Do I give it to? I mean, people used to bring me cassettes. People used to give me CDs, and now it's thumb drives. And it's funny, I'm gonna be a little, this is a 16 gigabyte thumb drive.
I thought about, usability.
That's awesome. I have Ziploc bags of 1 gigabyte, or 256 megabyte thumb drives that I don't do anything with.
Well, this you can reuse.
I look forward to that. So anyways, people give me demos and music on this kind of medium, and it's cool. Other ways, because I'll answer a question that you may have, just kind of going, running a record label, how do I put out music? How do people get known? How do people get their music released? This is one way, personal. I love personal. That was awesome.
I didn't really intend to do it,
I
but you
have
brought
to
it up,
listen
so
to
I
this
was like,
now
hey.
because you all are gonna.
There's people on
you're
Facebook
witness,
watching, so everyone's like, what's
really?
going on? Oh, my God.
Sorry. No.
So I wanted to continue on the discussion of how you sort of the sort of record and digital music, and in terms of like playing that. I mean, I've watched some of your sets. You play CDJs. You bring in sort of like a third deck with tractor, and so going from vinyl to CDJs. What are the kind of things that CDJs have allowed you to do that are different? Maybe like, are there things that you can do now that you couldn't do before? What are some of the sort of technical aspects of DJing that you've kind of integrated in your practice?
I'd like to be someone that owns my technology, not having it own me, in a sense. If people can kind of understand that, like, I have a smartphone, but I don't always use it, and I don't feel very smart sometimes using it, so I don't use it all the fullest potential. But that's cool with me. I like technology. I think it opens up a lot of doors. It closes a lot of doors. You know, one of the bigger questions also asked in interviews is, so what's changed the most in your longevity in this career? And the question that always is most paramount is digital technology. That has changed so many things. It's opened a lot of doors. It's closed a lot of doors. I still am not a DJ producer that uses an internal method to play my music, which most people kind of known as sync DJs. You know, it's not me. You know, you give someone a pencil and you give another person a pencil and you give someone else a pencil, most likely they're going to all do different things with that pencil. Someone's going to draw something, someone may write poetry, someone may break it and shove it through a piece of paper and become an architect. Everybody's going to do something different. So you take a computer, which is a tool, and you give it to an artist, and they're going to do something different with it. So what works for me right now, because I've gone through the playing cassettes, playing reel-to-reel, playing vinyl, playing CDs, playing digital medium, playing USB sticks. I love the technology. It's moving super duper fast. In the studio is a real cool thing, but it's a real pain in the ass. Like my old studio, like it's not old studio, but my studio in the past, I had electronic equipment that needed to be updated. And so you contacted, like, let's say I had an Akai S950 sampler. That was the first sampler I had. And I needed to update the software because there's something buggy going on. This is 1989, maybe. I would have to call them by phone. They would get me to fax something in, and then they would send it a 3.5 diskette to me, which would get there, 4 to 5 business weeks later. And now you know what to do when you update. You can just update and just do something. So it's really kind of cool that that's helped change things. In the studio as well, I don't update as often as everybody does because there's this integration period, this handshake, this account. I call it computer accountability of one machine and one program working with the other. I have to wait. I feel comfortable updating operating systems every 6 months to 12 months before things can work together. Because life on the road and trying to be creative is like I make music so I can travel. All artists do that now because you can't make a healthy living making music on sales. So all artists of all sorts, regardless if it's rock, jazz, funk, punk rock, whatever, they make music so they can travel and tour, and you make your living through physical ticket sales and going out to nightclubs, unless you're a pop artist and you can make money on plays and actual physical downloads. So it's hard traveling and only coming home for 3 days at a time and having to do something musically, do a remix deadline, finish your album, and you have to be creative on demand. So I don't know if you guys have deadlines or are familiar with deadlines, but a creative deadline sucks. A work deadline in terms of getting a paper is creative, but I find that being creative on demand is very difficult and frustrating. And I don't need that extra time in my studio trying to acclimate and get my computers to handshake with each other with new operating systems and all that. I got 3 days to do this project and that's it, so I don't want to deal with technology. That's a woe. But that's the studio aspect of technology and how it's cool and how it stinks. I like the old school turntable vinyl feeling with the computer holding my music, so I don't have to travel around with 9,000 records. It gives me the opportunity to, people know me for different kinds of music, different styles of music, and they want me to be able to be open. I hope my fans would be able to have me do and trust what I do. So I like having that. I was involved with the technology, started in the early 2000s, I think, maybe even the late 1990s, called Final Scratch, which was a company from Holland that I was introduced by John Acquaviva, who is a colleague and a friend and a venture capitalist in a sense. And he was involved with this company called Final with a F, not a V, Final Scratch. Or now was it vinyl? Now my memory's going. Anyways, this was the first technology that let you have a record and play digital files from your computer. It had a tone in it. I mean, I don't know if everybody knows about like Native Instruments, Tractor or Serato or something, but this was like the first company. It was a startup company from Holland called N2 IT, and they were running this small program on BE operating system. And I got involved. I think it was me, Richie Houghton, John Acquaviva, and I forget 2 other people were involved that took this technology and ran with it and embraced it rather than having the stream of technology carry us away and not feel like we're having control over it. And it was a really cool and interesting time at the beginning of this. And it still allowed me to play vinyl and have that vinyl feel, because for people that don't know, imagine having a magical, mythological piece of vinyl, and that you can choose any song to be on that record and not have to change it or get it. This is the technology, and I was like, oh shit, really? Like people didn't know in the beginning what I was doing. They thought my performance was faked. They thought it was pre-recorded because I wasn't changing the record. I mean, that's old school thought. Another funny thing too is the DJs, we used to have our records behind us. So the crowd would be here, and I'd be playing in front of the people. DJs would be playing in front of the people. And we would always turn our backs to you guys. So it's kind of like I'm doing the interview like this now. And I'm looking through my records, and then I take a record and I put it down. There was a slight disconnect that was, I'm aware of that point in time. People don't do that anymore. People are always in front of you. And I was playing in a club in the south of Portugal, in a little city called Albufeira, and the club was called Loco Mia. And I was there early to dance to the DJ before me because I just wanted to get lost. I wanted to have my musical therapy. And he was a colleague of mine, and I wanted to hear him play. So I was in the crowd. A couple people didn't know who I was. A couple people did know who I was. And some guy, while I was dancing, came up to me and said, hey, what is he doing? And the DJ before me was playing records. And he was turning his back and leaving the DJ stand, and no one was there. And he says, what is he doing? He's not there. And I said, oh, he's playing records. And there's a table in the back that we always ask for behind us, and we have to put our records there, and we have to go through and see which one it is. Really? You know, so this is a technology and ideal environment that I grew up with. 2 turntables. I grew up with the hip-hop movement in Philadelphia, microphone, and, records. I like that feeling still. I use my computer to hold my catalog. I use no vinyl anymore, no special encoded records, because the vinyl turntables were horrible quality. They weren't used, they weren't maintenance. So I would always show up to gigs and have problems with my technology, with the antiquated technology of analog turntables. So I now use 2 CDJ mixers playing time code with a computer. And it still allows me to have that old feeling that I grew up with, that I feel comfortable with. I'm open for change, don't get me wrong. I think progression is a good thing. I think change is a good thing. It's just how we deal with it. And for me, I feel comfortable doing this instead of going the other way. It's very easy showing up to a club with, I still got it, a USB stick that's 16 gigs. I have a radio show in America on Sirius XM. I record all my shows, all my gigs, and then it's uploaded. And it's a really cool platform to play on and with. I don't know why I'm saying that. There's some correlation to this. But it would be really cool just to show up at a gig with this without a backpack full of wires and cables. It's the woes of traveling too. Please take out your computer, your laptop, your electronics. It's one more thing that makes me feel like I did something wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just a DJ. But a lot of my friends are funny. They play with USB sticks. Oh, that's why I mentioned Sirius Radio, because I listen to my sets, and in an hour I play around an average of 8 to 18 records in 1 hour. And that can be stored on this, and I can show up to a gig with just this, and that's cool. It's great for my slip disc, L4, L5. So some people get lower back humor. I have friends, it's really kind of in a Spinal Tap kind of way, fun. I got friends who have tour managers that show up at gigs, and plug in their USB sticks into the CD players. It's cool. But it's just not, I would like that. It's just not where I am and where my head is. I like the technology, how I have it, 2 CD players. You know, more things to go wrong, but I'm cool with that. People used to scream and yell when the turntable bumped, and people complained all the time, and ooh, boo, skip the record. You know, now people do the same thing when there's a digital. You know, you can't win. So just feel comfortable with what I have.
Yeah.
Got it?
I got it.
All right.
One thing I was also curious about is, and I've been thinking about this, and I just want your opinion on it, is the sort of the trajectory of the BPM and how people and crowds and what the sort of BPMs that crowds like and respond to and are used to. I have a sense that, like, you know, records from the 90s, like 135, 140, you know, there's a lot of that. And you have like the fast stuff. And then it kind of goes down to, let's say techno, because it's not, obviously not the case for all genres. And then you sort of go back down to sort of 120, 125 in the recent sort of decades. And now there's like a bit of a craze for like the vintage kind of like 90s techno. So what's your take on BPM, just that concept and how you relate to it and what kind of thing you look for, or how do you, what's your relationship to BPM?
Does everybody know what BPM is?
Beats per minute, so the tempo, the how fast the rhythm is going.
Just want to make sure. It's also a festival, so
That's
I thought
right.
I just played the BPM festival, first one in Europe last week, and so I thought the original question was about the festival.
No, it's about the rhythm.
The tempo.
The tempo.
You know, it's called dance music, but you can sure dance to all different kinds of music without tempos and beats and rhythms. And I've played festivals and I played events where people are there with me. And truly, I sometimes describe what I do as fishing. I don't know how many of you have gone fishing. But there's this interesting relationship in between the fisher person. That's the right way of saying it, right? Fishing. Well, a woman could be a fishing man, right? Fisherman. Well, fishing person, actor, actress. So anyways, I describe a gig sometimes as like I have really good bait, and my bait is my record box. I got really good bait to catch fish. So I throw my line into the water and I try to catch fish. It's a complicated scenario as a vegan, but you'll kind of get it. I know I have really good bait. I know I have really good things to catch fish. I know I have really good records. I know that they work because I used them the week before and people went crazy and nuts. Some gigs I show up and the bait doesn't work. The fish aren't biting. And I don't know when. There's this click. There's this symbiotic relationship in between. I kind of go back to being this musical therapist in a sense of being able to connect with certain people. And you can't connect with everybody, I've realized. Maybe if you're a live show, if you go see Stevie Wonder, everybody at that Stevie Wonder concert's going to give him all the pleasure to do whatever he wants. Duke Ellington covers his music, other people's music, whatever. DJing is different because not everybody knows the DJ, not everybody goes there just to hear his music. They go for the reasons why I talked earlier, alcohol, sex, you know, cool place. All right, tangent. Fishing. When I throw music out there and nothing happens, and I'm fortunate that it happens a lot. But as soon as I catch a bite on the end of the hook, I know something's alive. And certain records, I get the connection, and then it's lost. And then people leave for whatever reason. They got a call. They have to go to the bathroom. They have to buy a drink. You know, so drink was spilled on them. They got to do, you know, whatever. But there's a point in time when it connects with me. And I use the fishing situation. So, all right, I caught a fish. I got it. Took 20 minutes, but I got a fish. Now I hook the fish, and I feel this connection where I'm connected to something. And this is also my connection with the crowd and the people. When I throw out some good music and I have a connection, this dance that I have with the people is awesome. And it's what all DJs and performers long for, is some connection for to their audience. I can let the fish go, I can let the line out, and the fish can swim away, but when I want it to come back, I just reel it in, and I got the fish still. And I like this relationship I have with the crowd sometimes, where I can just go really weird, far out places and get the crowd coming back for some more. So the reason why I'm talking about this symbiotic relationship that I sometimes have with the crowd goes to your question is BPM, rhythm. I played, last time I kind of did this, I think I was in Japan, and I was catching fish. I mean, I had this relationship going on with this sea of people, and I can go up and down and up, and they gave me the creativity, the license to be able to do that, and I love that. I don't need rhythmatic beats. I can get aural pulses and sound waves to be able to get people to sway and make their own interpretation of the sound that's coming out on their speakers, and that movement and that connection. So I don't always need a tempo to define who I am and what I do. So I don't really know, in terms of your question, what the trend is in beats per minute, because I'm blessed to be able to do what I do and have the confidence that the crowd, or at least a bunch of people in the crowd, are able to give me that respect and license. Like, oh, he's 47, he can do whatever he wants. But I have this license where people know that I have history behind me and I can do certain things. It's not always there, but it's there. So anyways, I don't know how to answer that question. I answered something.
I guess it was more of a kind of
I'm not really much on
conceptual
that,
question in terms of like if you have certain affinities to certain BPMs and why. And
no, it's all moving. I started out as a mobile DJ, and it wasn't about beat per minute. It was about a feeling, a tone, really a feeling that you get when you hear something that you really like. You know, if you hear your favorite song, you're like, that's my jam. You know, you dance, you go around, you do high fives, you know, you kiss someone, you dance with your wife at your wedding, your sweet 16 party, wherever the mobile DJ is, it has its purpose, it's a feeling. And I choose to get my feeling from it all, not just by tempo of a song. Whether or not the crowd's up for it, you know, like I can really be feeling some, you know, drum and bass, and, you know, deep house crowd may not be into it at that time, and they leave, and the fish got away. But there is some connect with some people, and sometimes I do silly and stupid things like that, like clear festivals at dance floor, because I really feel like I want to play something cool. And being up there, and everybody's like, what did he just do?
So do you organize your
chance.
music by feeling and mood, or is there how do you do that?
How do I find one song in 10,000 on my computer when I only play 18 of them at each gig? I used to take record out of my record box because I'm limited by the capacity of the record box in my storage. When I'd fly someplace, this is what I got. I would fill up a container full of bait for the fish, and hopefully it would work. But after a while, you would take some of it out and refresh. I can't remember the last time I took any music out of my digital medium storage area. I don't. We just keep on putting it in and keep on putting it in and keep on putting it in. And how I find my records. The reason I like the computer and not the USB stick is for searching for things and how quick you can search. USB, there's more steps of being in the computer, the screen, and more of a disconnect with the crowd. Where the laptop, I can choose to search things by artist name, by title, by song, or what I call comment. And comments are areas that you can write whatever you want to do. Like on your, how is your hotel? You write a comment. So there's an area in the computer program where you can write a comment. And I choose to put in certain things that by feeling, tag words, adjectives, Chicago, deep, jacking, acid, funky, sexy, last song, first song, pumping, festival. You know, all these different code words for me of how I feel. Like I may today play something sunny, sexy, Montreal. You know, who knows? And
Do you have a
everything that
tag
comes
called
up.
Montreal in your.
There is not, actually. But I can create a record box of things called Montreal and, you know, put in there. Damn, he got me. There soon will be. So I don't know. I go by, that's how I find my music when I play out live. That's how I organize my music in my computer. It's very difficult to find. I lost my wallet on Friday, and it sucks. First world problems is no big deal. Credit cards, identification, and then you just deal with things, and you just deal with. You deal with trying to find, like knowing you have really good bait to catch a fish, knowing you really have good ammunition, and you cannot find it. It's like you know you have the right socks that you want to wear for an outfit, but you can't find them. They're someplace. They're in the laundry, they're under the bed, they're at your girlfriend's house. How do you find things? And it's really an interesting kind of thought of how to find things when you're really looking for it, when 3,000 people are looking at you and you don't want to live in the computer. One of the reasons why I didn't want to go with the computer when I was vacillating in between vinyl technology or the old school way and new technology was the computer. And not everybody can use it. Remember I talked about in Portugal the whole DJ turning their back to find the records. Well, some people don't know what that is, and that's a learning. That disconnect of turning your back and losing the crowd and not seeing them and not giving them the attention, that disconnect is how I felt when I looked into my computer. I felt like in the beginning that I was checking emails. Now, people know when they see rock bands, hip-hop bands, whatever, DJs, that a computer is it's just part of the stage now. So I know that it's just a tool for me, but I was in the computer and I felt like this 40-second disconnect of trying to find a song, of people thinking that I wasn't there for them. Like I was checking emails, I was looking at eBay, I was on Beatport, I don't know, I was on a porn site, whatever. I wasn't there for them. And it was one of the reasons why I stopped using a computer and went back to vinyl and CDs. And it was what got me back was the mindset. I can actually find the music quicker and more efficiently, I think, by using a computer now. But that was one of the reasons why I left using a computer, was trying this disconnect. But mindset, it's just a tool for me to use now, and everybody's accustomed to it.
So you figured out that system that helped you kind of do that quicker.
It's still hard to find records that I feel, and I can't, like the creative process and finding something in front of people in a performance isn't always rocket like fast. Why the whole, you ever been asked a question, you know the answer and you just don't, it's going to come to you at the weirdest times. And so sometimes that happens to me where I'm trying to find something, I know it's in there, and I, like 2 days later, I'm like, that's what it was, you know? But these are little problems with the creativity of just having it happen live and spontaneous. I love the spontaneity of what I do.
Yeah. It's part of the art form of DJing itself, kind of having that, what's the right song for the right moment, right? It's part of like the craft.
The musical therapy.
Yeah.
I used to also think that I was I was providing an aural landscape for people. Have you ever gone to a club or a venue on 2 nights, same club but different DJ, and one night you go in there and it's the beginning of the night and no one's there and this person's playing music that just doesn't work for you and you just want to leave. And then you go there another night, the same time, and the same club, same everything, except someone's playing something that works for you, and you want to stay there. And it's a cool thing to be able to provide this warm atmosphere, this inviting thing, and people come out to hear me because they trust me in providing that. I like to do really long sets because I like playing music and I like doing this. This is my job, as I was talking before, my job, my work. I love making music creatively as a DJ. I want to do it longer. So I'll choose to do an all-night set rather than playing 2 hours. I also have to deal with playing together with opening DJs. And it's frustrating for me sometimes when the opening DJ is playing the complete opposite of what I do, and the complete, like, 12 o'clock music. It's like, you know, peak time music when people aren't even in the club yet. And I like to do whole night sets so I can control the story that I get to tell. And I'd like to have people come on that journey and that story with me, and I can control it rather than having to rely on other people. And it's frustrating to come on and have to play completely different music, and then people that don't know me are like, who's this guy? He was rocking before. What if this guy is playing this ambient shit? You know, start clean, start fresh. So I like longer sets too, but more of it's a feeling. Because I think everybody can understand if it's just not with electronic music. You can go into a cafe and they're playing, you know, singer-songwriter stuff, and you're just not in the mood for that. You want to hear some place that's playing Isaac Hayes or something like that. You go to another cafe. So it's creating a feeling, and the responsibility isn't so much political, like you said before, but it's about setting a tone and a feeling and an atmosphere, which is 100% subjective. That's also the unique thing, you know. I felt like I rocked it, but other people are like, yeah. Subjective art, so.
Well, I wanted to open up maybe to a few questions from the audience. If somebody, you're gonna have to come up because we have some people watching the live stream, so you're gonna have to come up and speak into the microphone and speak loudly so people can hear properly. You're gonna have to go behind the speaker so there's no
Right, feedback.
Just come, take a seat, please.
Hi, nice to see you.
Hey, what's your name?
Jason.
Jason. Nice to
Jason,
meet you,
yes.
Jason.
Well, first of all, the epiphany you mentioned earlier, I want to thank you because you're part of that for me in the early mid-'90s with Daft Punk, Green Velvet, and all that. So thank you.
That's awesome. I live for that. Thank you.
Oh man, look, thank you. Anyway, and my question is a little more musical, because what got me into that genre is what they call the lift. When everything goes really high and then it just explodes. Because nowadays, for the past few years, we talk a lot about the drop in, dubstep and whatnot. And I was wondering if you could talk about that whole concept of that lift. Like, where did that come from? Like, and it's so fascinating. And it's such a natural high, when you're up there dancing and it just explodes and you're part of that. And your peers are part of that, and I was wondering if you could just mention where does that come from, that lift, that amazing feeling.
That's an awesome question, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for your comment, too. You know how awesome it is to have a compliment like that? Seriously, it gives me, and we were talking about the mind earlier and just the ego, and it gives me a sense of validity and purpose when I hear someone say it. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you, seriously.
Okay. I haven't heard of the lift. But I'm 47, so, Wow,
Happy birthday, Jason.
Good. Happy birthday. Give me a handshake. Oh, you leave me hanging. I know. We'll get it. It's gonna go viral on the web. Like. Yeah, we can Instagram.
But the thing is, I call it the lift. I call it like that. Like.
Has anybody heard of the lift? I know what you're saying, but is it a term? Here, we can do a picture. Hey.
I'm totally geeking out right now. I'm sorry.
I feel comfortable with you guys. That's fine. There'll be time for. Actually, we could all do selfies while it's live streams too. But I don't. The lift makes. I've heard of the drop.
Okay.
Everybody knows what the drop is, right? But the funny thing is, just when you said that, I realized that there's a saying which is there's nowhere to go when you're down but up, and there's always a lifted after a drop. So it's funny that maybe you just coined a new term, the lift or something like that. There used to be something in music called rise,
Well, maybe a rise.
but that's
yeah.
a tone that just kept on perpetually. It's an acoustical illusion where it seems like it's Penrose steps is what it's called. You can Google it or Wikipedia. I did a lot of music in the 90s that was based around build-ups. And I love tension in music. I love it. I love when something's not there and then something comes up and are you going to sneeze or you're not? Are you going to get someplace and you're not? I love this anticipation and tension. And I have it always in my music, and it's not typical. Like, I did a track called I'm Ready by Size 9, and at the time I was told that it was the end-all of be-alls of snare roll build-ups. And if it was a good thing or a bad thing.
One thing that fascinated me about that music. This whole, it just goes
But there's a
up and up
feeling.
and up and up and up. It's just amazing.
There's a feeling, definitely, I'm familiar with the tension, and to me that's tension rather than calling a drop and lift. It's a euphoric something. It's like, if someone took my water, it's tension, it's not there, I really want it, and then it comes back, and it's there, and it's something is gone and it comes back, and a bunch of people jumping up and down, and I'm aware of it. I like tension in music. I got away from doing snare rolls in the 90s. When I became known for certain things, I stopped doing it and I started doing other things. That's just, I guess, what my integrity told me to do. Like, okay, I want to get pushed somewhere else. What else do I do? People talk about, like, I played jam band festivals a lot in the beginning. And I would go there and I'd be like, great jam bands. They're all into like twirling and getting all like messed up and just go crazy. And so I thought about like playing the most hypnotic, repetitive, which is what I'm into. Like I said, this kind of transcendental state of meditation that you're induced in by repetitive rhythms and you get there quicker. Not everybody's like that. Not everybody wants that. So I guess I kind of take chances by knowing my performance is different than my production, because the majority of the people want to jump up and down. They live. I mean, if you go to an EDM concert now, like every 3 minutes, people are jumping. The 3-minute tracks are amazing because it gets you so much into a short period. But when they jump up and down at this crescendo after the drop, I guess the lift, people just, I've noticed it. I was like, well, this is crazy. They just sit around. They like, it's a chance to, like, interval training with cardio. Yeah. You sprint and then you just check your phone. And that's what people do. And it's something that I've noticed, at least more EDM, but at a performance, people want to get taken away, and a way for them to be taken away is these euphoric moments. It's subjective, it's different, because for me, I have a different connection with the people. But it's a good question, because a lot of it is, I mean, it's always been around with music. I mean, you look at Pink Floyd and they have these intervals, or Grateful Dead, Mickey Hart would come on and do these drum space sessions, and then all of a sudden it would be nothing except for drone. And people still be in there, but that's Grateful Dead. They're at a different mindset, I imagine. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, totally.
It's a little naivety, not knowing about the lift, but
yeah, but that's what got me into it. So that's why I wanted to ask.
Awesome. Happy birthday, Jason.
Thank you so much. Wow. Thanks.
Another photo? Anyone else? You want to come here?
You got your camera? All right, cool. Of course, that's right.
There will be time afterwards for photos if you want.
Hi, what's your name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. Here you go.
I wanted to ask you about your relationship with this city, with Montreal. I know my friend Hollis P. Monroe. You know him? He used to tell me that, he told me that at certain time, I think it was in the 90s, that you used to come up here just to dance. I mean, you weren't playing or anything, so I think you came at Sona or something. And just wanted to let you to know how you just
So question is my connection with Montreal.
Yeah.
Okay. He's referring to a friend of mine who's a producer colleague. He's Philadelphia-based. His name is Hollis P. Monroe, and he
moved to
lived here.
Montreal. He moved to Montreal.
I don't know
for a
how
few-
many years. It's funny because when I come here, I think of calling him up and inviting him out.
Now he's in Berlin.
Now
so
he's in Berlin.
Yeah.
Good friend, good musician, and
Vegan as well.
he's now vegan as well. That's awesome. I like him when he ate meat, but that's cool. He's referring. I remember that. See, I'm telling you, sometimes the memory's there and sometimes it's not. I remember that night. I had a night off, and I went to dance at Sonar when Tiga was playing with Jasper Dahlback.
Exactly. That's what he said. Exactly.
So
That's
I don't
the
know
night.
when it was. I was there, and I remember too. It was so hot and sweaty.
Your dreads.
I don't think I had dreads then because I was aware that my hair, like if I don't put product in my hair or I'm around, it like kind of get Jerry curl like, it droops. And I was like, oh shit, someone's gonna notice me with droopy hair. But Jesper was and is a producer. He was doing stuff on Svek Records from Sweden. And he still does music with with Tiga.
Right.
But Montreal is not so far from Philadelphia, and I texted Tiga today. He's in New York,
Yes.
and I said, "Dude, do you remember the first time or who brought me to Montreal?" And he says, "No. Let me give it some thought. I'll let you know tomorrow." And I said, "I need to know now. I have a talk at LANDR, and I gotta know. This is more of what my cup is full with. I don't remember. I wish I did drugs so I can use an excuse on why I can't remember. But it was in the early 90s, and I don't know. I think I was playing the raves here. I immediately went to 514, but that was later.
Right.
And then we were in the car with Sarah, and we were talking about old clubs in Montreal, and I guess area playground.
Right.
I played with Tiga at Angels on a night off and unannounced. Sonar, Stereo. But the raves, I'm having a problem with. And I think I'm remembering this flyer, but I'm getting, no offense, I know Toronto and Montreal are different. But I'm getting Toronto confused with Montreal, where there's a party called Liquid Harmony.
Okay. I don't think it's Montreal. No. It might have been Toronto.
But Tiga said that the promoter for that party was from Montreal, so maybe that's why I'm getting confused. And I did a woman named Katya or Krista.
Kristen. Yes.
Yeah,
Kristen.
I played her warehouse parties.
Right.
And actually, Tiga says that was the most euphoric, memorable moment for him when I played one record that we actually have a connection to. It's by Ludwig Navarre, who's Saint Germain.
Oh.
It was him as his techno alias on DJ's Upbeats from the Netherlands, and I think it was called Clementine. Good record, but I used to come here a lot as the U.S. rave guys would. I guess this is kind of about rave, but my talking and tangents made me kind of go everywhere. But a lot of the U.S. rave guys would come here to Canada, especially Montreal, to play in those early rave days of the 90s. And I would play up in Toronto a lot too.
Right.
So it's, to me, Montreal is just like this amazing European city that's like in Canada.
Right.
It's my favorite city in North America.
Is it?
It's the truth.
All right.
I even did a tweet about it the other day.
All right. All right.
Or
you got
did
the
I do a
bagels.
tweet? Or I did on my radio show, and I got the bagels to prove it. But there's a unique, cool. I said I would, if Montreal wasn't Montreal, I'd live here. And what that meant to me was it's too damn cold. Like, this
Most
is
of the time,
awesome.
yeah. Today is.
Like, I'm sweating up here, and I'm used to it being, like, it's 30 today, and I'm used to it being minus 30. Or the last time I was supposed to play the picnic, it got canceled because of storm weather. So I love it here. It's a quick European fix, but I'm getting too old for the cold.
Yeah. You've played in the cold.
Props for living here.
Igloo
Gotta
Fest.
go.
You've played.
Yeah, Igloo Fest. I got heaters up on stage.
know,
That's
that's
something
right.
that I don't know if you guys know about,
Oh yeah.
but it gets too hot for like a jacket even.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
hot in that stage for Igloo Fest. But playing the clubs and being part of the festivals, the Picnic Electronic and Igloo Fest, it's awesome. You guys have a great music community and a city and a government that seems to embrace it. The festivals and the clubs as well. You've always had an integrative market in between the gay scene and the straight club scene,
Right.
which, you know, in the States it tended to be, you know, you just go to your gay club if you're gay and that's that. And I always found, and it's funny, maybe the French connection, because the best clubs I ever played in France were the mixed clubs, where they would open up one night of the week and it was a gay club and one night it wasn't considered gay, and it would be
Packed.
mixed and it would be the best. People be up for everything, and it was like, can't we all just live together moments? And Montreal always had that too with the clubs, and you always had this unique loophole with after hours where you can go further without the inclusion of alcohol.
Right. You're right.
And have that possibility. So and there's a lot of great places for me to eat as a vegan vegetarian here
Right,
too.
right.
And I used to love to come up here and solely play on a Saturday night, so that Sunday morning after the rave or after the club, we'd all walk to Montreal and be part of the Tam Tam.
All right, good.
I loved it. We were driving here, we went across it, and it seemed much smaller than it used to. Right, Sarah? Yeah. And she's a local, so the size has changed. But, I mean, that you guys got really cool culture here. I don't know how you feel it, but as a Philadelphia coming here, I dig your culture
All
at
right.
Montreal.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll take one last question if anyone wants to come up and ask. Yeah, come up.
Get your camera ready.
Cameras, flash. Cameras
Ah,
ready,
thank
prepare
goodness.
to flash.
This is my brother. What's up, man?
Got the curly hair brotherness.
Where you?
But I'm
Where you
from
been in my
Egypt
life?
though, so
We could still be brothers. That's fine.
I just wanted to ask about how do you set goals when you've done so much already? How do you look at like the past, the present, and think like, I want to do this in the future? Like with your label, with your touring, everything. What are your goals?
It's interesting. It's like I'm getting deep, but I feel comfortable with you guys, and it's kind of like an AA meeting in a sense, but I'm opening up and becoming vulnerable. But I sometimes have problems with commitments.
Still?
Oh, yes. This is something I'm aware of, and if you ask my girlfriend, partner, wife, she'll agree. Commitments, I have a hard time deciding, and it stinks when you have to make commitments of future plans, too. I always think that something better is going to come around, or I enjoy the fact of knowing I don't have to travel someplace for a future gig. You know, because we're today, September 24th, 2017, and, you know, I'm being asked about things in June of next year. And manager comes and says, hey, are you available in June of 2018? And I'm like, yes. You know, but there's something nice about not having a commitment and not having to be there and have to work to get there and stuff. So to me, goals means a lot of commitment too. I'm just happy doing and only knowing what I've known to do since I've been 13. And for you to say you've done so much seems awesome, but it doesn't feel like I've done enough.
What do you want to do?
That's what I'm having commitment issues with. I don't know. I
Where
like
would you
doing
like to
things. I like to
travel?
be inspiring and being inspired. That's something that is really awesome for me, is to really honestly, truly be inspired by people like yourself, like you guys, and like where I go, and also to hopefully be inspired by what I've presented to you and opening up in my world, that you only know me as so much, and now you know me a little bit better. Goals, I've often thought of a question: why does a certain person ask the question why, and why do people not? Someone came up to me and said, I thank you for everything. And I said, whoa, that's a lot to be thankful for. And I said, well, I'm from a small Eastern European village of like 2,000 people. And I moved to the UK because I heard a song on the radio that was your song, and it was from a UK broadcast. And he didn't know any English, and he went to Brighton and lived in Brighton. And he learned his English in Brighton and went to school, and then what he considered everything because he heard a piece of my music. Why do certain people like question, like someone may hear that song and say, I'm happy here milking the cows and being with my family. I'm not saying
like
he was milking cows.
How did that trigger a whole life change for him?
What are goals and how do we all, I know you're asking me and I'm kind of putting it on to others and their experience. I'm still wondering what my goals are, except for me being inspiring and inspired. And as much as I want to disconnect and be this musical therapist and have people close their eyes on the dance floor and just get lost in my music, I also want to be able to do that in different ways, kind of helping people more so than just being creative help. Because, you know, now I'm going to get political. I was in Holland playing in a city called, the club was Doornroosje in someplace in northern Netherlands. And it was the night where Trump put the travel ban and people were bugging out in New York, and there was a riot in New York, and ACLU and anything. There was a 6-hour delay. And I found out about the news, as we all do, through media, social media, smartphones, internet. And I was really, I didn't play it, I didn't perform yet. Nijmegen, that's the name of the city. Sorry, I knew it would come to me.
You have a good memory, by the way.
It's coming. Thank you. So I just all of a sudden took on all this energy and feeling from what happened. And I think we're all very emotionally involved in what took place in America with the election in November. I can't remember when this was, if it was the new year. Yeah, it was this year. And I heard this news and I had to DJ and I said, what an egotistical asshole I am playing in a nightclub when people are having their rights taken away from them and having to suffer when my biggest concern is if I get a middle seat in an airplane. You know, I thought of that, truly. I took this on and I was trying to see empathy and compassion is something that as a father I'm trying to live by. And I was trying to be empathetic by putting myself in my life in other people's seats so I can see what it's like. And I like to try to live that way. I think as humans we have the ability to be compassionate and empathetic, and we forget that. And that's what one of the big separations of ourselves and animals, non-humans are. And I just felt this, and I talked to Kim, my girlfriend. Just so you know, we're not married, we have a kid, and I don't refer to her as my wife because we're not married, but she's, I don't know, my 47 have a girlfriend, that seems kind of cool. Anyways, I talked to her because she was really affected by it, and this was before I went on. I called her on the phone, I took the roaming charges, and I said, I need to talk to her about how I'm feeling. And she said, be an outlet for people to escape and bring happiness into people's lives. And I'm trying that. You know, you guys get it by the fact of me saying I want to be a kind of a musical therapist and take people away from their woes and what. But I've been taking so much of this. My mom lives in Sarasota, Florida. She had to deal with the Hurricane Irma, you know, the people in Texas with Harvey. Like how far can we spread ourselves thin? So what can I do? You know, I gave money locally. I gave money Red Cross nationally. I've given doing a compilation where you donate tracks and all the proceeds from the download goes to help victims. Like that's great. But what else and why am I so emotionally involved when I feel weird for being in an environment that is so unsympathetic, I feel, towards life and our problems and issues. But then, through talk and through friendship, I was able to realize that I do have, I guess, a sense of a purpose, which, as I just said, I'm able to provide an atmosphere for people to have change or go someplace or provide happiness, or that 2 hours or 3 hours of I just need to balance, and I can help with that balance. Maybe I'm becoming more clear talking with you about it now and how that can, you know, how I can be, maybe you guys can help me out or be enlisted in doing that, in bettering and just being a form of music that was just solely to go out and, you know, to a club and get drunk and, you know, get laid or just do it at a cool place. You know, that there seems to be something more for me that maybe I need to do some deep new moon, like, wondering about. You know, I don't know.
More art integration.
I'm trying to put out more art, but how we look at it as well. Like, you know, I'm doing art, but how do people perceive it and look at it? You know, and I can now say, through all of your help, that I have a little bit more purpose in providing an outlet for people to go and get away from that shit that they're having to have to deal with. And it's also my symbiotic relationship with you guys when I'm performing, that I can share that with you and also be away from my work and be in my happiness and my job. And I can get closer to what Kim, my girlfriend, said, like, when did you lose happiness? You know? I don't know if it's a deep point to wrap it up, but...
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, man.
You're the boss.
Well, that's a pretty nice way to wrap things up. And so thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah,
I feel like this was a very nice and good session we had here, right?
Feels therapeutic for me. I don't know. Thank you. I know I really like interaction with people, as you guys are kind of getting at, and I love talking, but I love listening and learning rather than just talking all the time. And it's kind of weird for me just to... Kim, my girlfriend, says I need to listen more. And I don't talk like this with her. But it's also, I was hoping for a little bit more question one-on-one, but I try to be available, and you guys ask great questions, and I'm happy to come here early to be a part of this, because I think it's awesome. You guys, I mean, I was thinking maybe less people would be here, and it's a nice, healthy turnout, so.
Well, if you want to take another couple of questions, if anyone wanted to come up and ask, if you're open for it, or we can just kind of chat amongst, you know.
Yeah, I'll do it in a social setting. That's all right. I don't want to. I give up this microphone, but.
Well,
is anybody coming to picnic tonight? Yeah, you still?
Yeah, I think we have a crowd.
Not
here.
enough. Anybody coming to picnic tonight? Oh,
everyone.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Guest list? Anybody? Just sign. I get your email. Do I retweet this and you can get on the guest list?
Well, thank you so much, and we're gonna say bye to people who are watching on Facebook.
Your Facebook over there?
Over there.
Hey.
So thank you so much again. We're here at LANDR. This was LANDR and Picnic organizing this talk. And again, thank you so much.
And it's cool that you guys have this here as a place to have a gathering. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I hope you do lots of cool things like that.
We will.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.